Hello and welcome. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran and you're watching Newsnight on DD News and DD India, your prime-time destination for news and bespoke analysis. It's good to have you again with us. All right, on the show tonight, we get you a special report from Ayodhya as we count down to the 5th August groundbreaking ceremony of the Ram Temple there. Also on the show, an exclusive interview of Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, plus news and updates from around the world. But first, as always, the headlines. A 3-day-long Vedic ritual begins in Ayodhya ahead of the groundbreaking ceremony of the Lord Ram Temple on Wednesday. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath visits the holy site to take stock of the preparations. Holy soil and water reaches Ayodhya from across the country. In an exclusive interview to DD India's sister channel DD News, Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath says Prime Minister Narendra Modi will set an example for future generations by laying the foundation stone of the Ram Temple. Says the day will be an occasion to pay tributes to those who sacrificed their lives for the cause. India allows a Pune-based institute to conduct further trials of a COVID-19 vaccine candidate called Covishield. The Oxford University and a private pharmaceutical company called AstraZeneca have co-developed the potential vaccine. The rate of recovery from COVID-19 in India touches a new high of 65.77%. More than 40,500 patients discharged in the last 24 hours. Fatality rate falls further to 2.11%. The number of tests crosses the 2 crore mark. The Ministry of Health and Family Welfare issues guidelines on preventive measures to contain the spread of COVID-19 in yoga institutes and gymnasia. The Home Ministry allowed their reopening from 5th August. The flood situation in Bihar remains critical. Nearly 54 lakh people in 14 districts affected. 31 disaster relief teams pressed into service. About 4 lakh people evacuated. Meanwhile, the flood situation improves in Assam. Prime Minister Modi exchanges greetings on the joyous festival of Eid al-Adha with President of Afghanistan, Dr. Ashraf Ghani. He reiterates India's commitment to a peaceful, prosperous and inclusive Afghanistan. Both leaders also exchanged views on evolving regional security situation. And the President, Vice President and Prime Minister greet people on the occasion of the festival of Raksha Bandhan. Social distancing marks festivities. India also celebrates Sanskrit Day. Union Ministers Rajnath Singh and Prakash Javadekar extend their greetings. All right, let's dive straight into our cover story. All eyes are on Ayodhya as the temple town gears up for the groundbreaking ceremony of the Ram Temple there. Prime Minister Modi will take part in the event on Monday. UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath visited the city to take stock of preparations. Here's a report. A 3-day religious ritual began at Ayodhya on Monday in the run-up to the groundbreaking ceremony of Lord Ram Temple on 5th August. Priests from Varanasi and Ayodhya presided over the ceremony.
आज वहाँ गणपति का पूजन प्रारंभ किया है। अथर्वशीर्ष के मंत्रों से 1000 आहुतियां और 9 शिला प्रस्तर उनकी आज पूजा की गई है। छोटी और बड़ी देवकाली दोनों का पूजन भी किया गया।
The temple town of Ayodhya reverberated with prayers, bells and conch shells as the devout thronged the venue. A number of rituals and prayers would be held ahead of the groundbreaking ceremony on 5th August. They include a 6-hour-long special ceremony on Tuesday, besides a special prayer at Hanuman Gadi on Tuesday and an early morning prayer on Wednesday, in addition to a special prayer in the Sanctum Sanctorum of the temple.
जन्म भूमि पर जहां आज भगवान विराजमान है लकड़ी के टेम्पररी टेम्पल में, वहां रामार्चा करेंगे। 5 तारीख को जहां मंदिर का गर्भगृह तैयार होना है, स्थान का चिन्हांकन हो गया है, वहां पर पूजा होगी।
Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath visited Ayodhya on Monday to take stock of the preparations for the groundbreaking ceremony. He inspected the temple site and other venues such as Hanuman Gadi. He also interacted with the officials there to review security in the town.
ये हमारे लिए ऐतिहासिक क्षण भी है, भावनात्मक क्षण भी है और एक नए भारत के निर्माण की आधारशिला को रखने का अवसर भी है। इसी दृष्टि से आज यहाँ पर यहाँ के कार्यों का अवलोकन करने के लिए मैं स्वयं आया हूँ, देखने के लिए। आयोजन श्री राम जन्मभूमि तीर्थ क्षेत्र न्यास का है, लेकिन उस कार्यक्रम में बाहर की सुरक्षा, बाहर व्यवस्था आदि को निरीक्षण करने देखने के दृष्टि से हम लोग यहाँ पर आए हैं। स्वाभाविक रूप से कहीं भी कोई कोताही न बरती दी जाए, ये हम लोगों ने पूरी तत्परता के साथ तैयारी की है।
The Sri Ram Janmabhoomi Tirth Trust has sent out invitations to the special invitees. The guest list includes 135 saints. Saints have also been invited from Nepal. The groundbreaking ceremony will be conducted keeping in mind the strict guidelines issued to prevent the spread of the coronavirus.
कोरोना, उसके दिशा निर्देश, एक व्यक्ति की दूसरे व्यक्ति से शारीरिक दूरी, इस सब का ध्यान रखा गया है और इसीलिए संख्या को बहुत सीमित।
There is palpable excitement among the locals too. The town is decked up for the occasion. With Arun Sharma and Shubhendu Ghosh in Ayodhya, Bureau Report, DD India. Anybody who visits Ayodhya now will tell you that Diwali has come early to the temple town. Colorful lights dot lanes and bylanes. There's an air of expectation and anticipation as locals and visitors alike look forward to Wednesday's ceremony.
The ancient religious and spiritual city of Ayodhya has been waiting for this moment a long time. The joys are visible among the people. Their dream of a grand and divine Ram temple at the Ram Lala will finally be a reality. The whole of Ayodhya filled with joy and anticipation. Every effort is being made to make Bhoomi Pujan historic and memorable. Walls of houses, temples and other buildings around the temple complex are being painted. Artworks have also been carved into the walls at many places. Other walls that were broken have been repaired and beautified. It looks like Diwali night. Ayodhya decorated with colourful frills. The aura of Lord Ram's presence is being felt. The ancient city has been given a complete makeover. Ayodhya Junction is splendidly decorated. The junction is coloured in yellow and red. An artwork of Ram Darbar has been painted in the middle of Ayodhya Junction. It was completed in 7 days by 4 painters. The Northern Railway had commissioned this painting. Ayodhya Junction will become one of the major junctions of India in the future.
आज करीब एक हफ्ते से ये भगवान श्री राम की जो फोटो बन रही है, आप देख रहे होंगे सामने राम दरबार इसको बनाया गया। इसमें कम से कम 4 लोग लगे थे और बड़ी मेहनत से, बड़ी लगन से इसको बनाया गया है।
कितने दिन लगे थे?
1 हफ्ता लगा इसमें, 7 दिन लग गया। हाँ।
Water and soil from rivers across the country are also reaching Ayodhya. Soil and water from every corner of the country will be used in the construction of the Ram Temple. Water of different rivers and soil of historical and religious places are reaching Ayodhya. So far, sacred soil from more than 1,500 places in the country has reached Ayodhya. And devotees have carried sacred water too from more than 2,000 places and more than 100 rivers of the country.
संपूर्ण भारत की पवित्र नदियों का जल और मिट्टी अयोध्या आए। समाज ने जिस उत्साह से इस विषय को पकड़ा, उसकी तो हमारे को कल्पना ही नहीं थी कभी। मैं गिनती भी नहीं कर सकता 1500 स्थानों से आया कि 2000 स्थानों से जल आया। और देश की जितनी पवित्र नदियां किसी के भी ध्यान में आ सकती हैं, उन सब का जल आया है।
These clay pots have been well decorated. They will be taken to the place of Bhoomi Pujan.
1000 से अधिक तीर्थ स्थलों के और 100 से अधिक नदियों के जल आ चुके हैं और 1000 तीर्थ स्थानों की मिट्टी आ चुकी है। कैलाश मानसरोवर से लेकर धनुषकोटी तक, कामाख्या से लेकर द्वारिका तक, पूरे भारत के नज़दीक के कार्यकर्ता जिनको अनुमति मिल गई अपने राज्यों से यहाँ आने की, उन्होंने स्वयं आकर के इन कलशों के रूप में, और जिनको नहीं मिली तो उन लोगों ने पार्सल, डाक, किसी भी माध्यम का उपयोग करके उपस्थिति अपनी परोक्ष तौर पर सुनिश्चित कराने का पूरा प्रयास किया है।
Records of the senders of these urns are also being kept, and thank you letters will also be sent to them later. After completion of the Bhoomi Pujan, arrangements have been made for laddus with special ghee to be distributed. A large number of people are working to put all preparations in place. There is also a thick security blanket. Extensive arrangements have been made regarding security. Police and PSC jawans are everywhere. Barricading has been done at various places and monitoring is being done with the help of drones. Ayodhya is a historic place from ancient times. It is ready to write another chapter into its rich historical heritage. Your channel Doordarshan is ready to bring you comprehensive coverage of the program. With Ritu Verma and Ramendra in Ayodhya, News Night Desk, DD India.
In an exclusive interview to DD India's sister channel DD News, Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath said Prime Minister Modi will set an example for future generations by laying the foundation stone of the Ram Temple at Ayodhya. He said 5th August would be the day to pay tribute to those who sacrificed their lives for this cause.
प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी स्वयं प्रत्यक्ष रूप से इस अवसर पर आकर के लगभग 500 वर्षों के इस लंबे इंतजार को आज अपनी करकमलों से, अपनी उपस्थिति से वर्तमान पीढ़ी को न केवल गौरवान्वित कर रहे हैं, बल्कि आने वाली पीढ़ी के सामने एक बहुत बड़ी नजीर रखने जा रहे हैं। और इसके साथ ही उन सभी हुतात्माओं को जिन्होंने राम जन्मभूमि के लिए एक लंबा संघर्ष किया था, अपना बलिदान दिया था, जिन लोगों ने संघर्ष किया, अपनी आंखों के सामने इस ऐतिहासिक क्षण को नहीं देख पा रहे हैं, उन सबको भी श्रद्धांजलि देने का एक अवसर 5 अगस्त 2020 की तिथि होगी।
The Chief Minister said the leadership of the Congress party never wished to resolve the issue, so it created hindrances in the construction of the temple.
कांग्रेस नेतृत्व कभी भी समस्या का समाधान नहीं चाहता था। आपने देखा होगा कांग्रेस के नेतृत्व ने 1949 में श्री सोमनाथ मंदिर की समस्या के समाधान में भी रोड़ा अटकाया था। और यही नहीं, श्री राम जन्मभूमि मंदिर निर्माण से संबंधित विभिन्न गतिविधियों में भी समय समय पर रोड़ा अटकाया था। और अंतिम रोड़ा इनका वो भी था जब कांग्रेस के एक वरिष्ठ नेता ने सुप्रीम कोर्ट में अर्जी लगाई थी कि न्यायालय 2019 के पहले इस समस्या का समाधान न करे।
ये भी कांग्रेस के ही एक नेता ने किया था।
All right, let me now give you a sneak peek into what's in store on the 5th of August, that's Wednesday. First, let's look up the first graphic on the screens here. Prime Minister Modi's itinerary in Ayodhya. First on the list is a visit to Hanuman Gadi in Ayodhya, followed by the inauguration of a postage stamp depicting a model of the Lord Ram Temple at Ayodhya, followed by the planting of a sapling in the temple town, and last but not the least, paying obeisance to the deity in Ayodhya. Let's bring up the last play, that's obeisance to the deity in Ayodhya. That brings up the Prime Minister Modi's itinerary. Let's move on to the VIPs who will be seated on the dais. Now on the dais will be Prime Minister Modi and only four other guests. Who they are, we'll tell you. First, Mahant Nitya Gopal Das, who is the chairman of the Sri Ram Janmabhoomi Tirth Kshetra Trust. He's the chairman of that trust. Followed by Uttar Pradesh Governor Anandiben Patel, Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, and last but not the least, the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh Chief Mohan Bhagwat. Next, let's look at the guest list overall. 135 saints have been invited, in addition to almost nearly 200 other invitees from all across the country, 175 to be precise. And notable among the invitees are Iqbal Ansari, a former litigant in the Ayodhya land dispute case, and Muhammad Sharif, a Padma Shri awardee. Let's move on to the next plate. Muhammad Sharif, a Padma Shri awardee, and of course saints from the Dalit community as well. Right, moving on to the third graphic we have for you. That's the security situation in Ayodhya. Now, invitation cards will have a one-time security code for all invitees. Now, there will be a complete ban on mobile phones, cameras, bags inside the venue. No vehicle pass will be allowed on that day. And finally, the last graphic about the groundbreaking ceremony on the 5th of August. The holy water and soil from all major rivers of India and the seas and oceans will be brought to the sanctum sanctorum of the temple in Ayodhya. Right, let me now take you straight to Ayodhya, where my colleague Arun Sharma is standing by for the latest. Arun, if you can hear me, Arun, if you can hear me, give us a flavor of the situation there, the development that took place through the day in Ayodhya. Note how the locals reacting to the much anticipated event of 5th August.
That's right. This temple is not mere a temple, Ramesh. It's an emotion, it's a feeling, it's a faith primarily. Generations have waited for decades to realize this day, or primarily to see the reality happening. The Ram Mandir now finally, or the primarily will be into existence now, or primarily the Ram Mandir construction will soon be a reality in next 3.5 hours or so. Well, 3.5 years or so. So primarily, let me show you this grand visuals behind me. This, I am standing right now on the bank of Saru River, and we are at the Ram Kiperi over here as of now, and you can see Diwali just arriving ahead of Diwali. So we know this fact that when Ram Bhagwan, when he returned from his Vanvas, Diwali was celebrated all across the Ayodhya at that time. And in a similar fashion now, you can say that Ayodhya is all decked up to be a witness of this grand and momentous day when Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be participating in the groundbreaking ceremony, or you can say that the Bhoomi Pujan of the Ram Janmabhoomi. Important part is that yes, on one side I can say that I am standing right now in the epicenter of the Ram circuit of the world, you can say that, because Ram Bhagwan or Lord Ram was born here. But on the other side, we should not forget this fact that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been focusing on giving a mega push to the Ram circuit in our country, and this is the center, you can say that, as far as this Ram circuit is concerned, because the government has now given a green signal for reconstruction of the railway station of Ayodhya, number one. Number two, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also be unveiling various developmental projects and will also be laying the foundation stone of various developmental projects related to infrastructure, related to tourism, and when he visits on 5th of August. So on one side, Ayodhya, yes, a long awaited dream comes true on 5th of August. So on the other side, a massive infrastructure push also, Ayodhya is also getting a massive infrastructure push as far as the tourism is concerned, as far as developmental projects are concerned. And yes, as you asked that what is the, what are the emotions over here as of now, but Ramesh, I can say only one thing. This land, or Ayodhya as of now is being echoing with only one thing, and that is Jai Shri Ram. In every houses, in every street, when I'm passing by through, people are chanting Jai Shri Ram. The loudspeakers are clearly saying that Jai Shri Ram. And on the other side, there are large display screens that's been placed over here in Ayodhya so that people can, witness various stories, various tales of Lord Rama, as Lord Ram connects everyone. Lord Ram is, synonym of unity when we talk about on the global level as well. So on the same lines, I can say that yes, the words are not enough sometimes to express the emotion, to express the feeling that people are feeling as of now. Hundreds of years, or you can say generations, have waited for this grand moment that finally becomes a reality on 5th of August. Ramesh?
Absolutely. Arun, you spent a couple of days in Ayodhya now. You interacted with the locals there. Talk to our viewers, if you will, about the temple itself, its design, its architecture, the number of artisans who put in a number of man hours over the years to build those the stone, the pillars for the temple and so on. So give our viewers a feel and look of the temple itself.
Absolutely, Ramesh. Now, this temple will be a historic temple, and of course, this will be a mega temple of Lord Ram all across the globe. And that's why we can say that this event of 5th of August is not only a national event, it's a global event. I mean, people or the Indian diaspora who have already, left India or who are living in other countries as of now, because we know this fact that generations, as I said earlier, have waited for this grand moment. So there are various NRIs, the OCI card holders, who have who have gone, or who are now primarily living in other parts of our country. They will also be virtually trying to connect to this event. And as we know this fact that Doordarshan News and Doordarshan primarily is bringing this mega coverage of Lord Ram Janma Bhoomi, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be participating in the grand groundbreaking ceremony. So the important part is that when we talk about North America, people will be virtually connecting over here. And as the Ram Janma Bhoomi Tirth has clearly said that everybody should try to lit diyas on this occasion of 5th of August. We know this fact that this grand temple is of 161 feet in height. That's the length. This temple will be having 5 domes altogether. We know this fact that Nripendra Mishra, who was earlier PS to the Prime Minister, he was made the chairman of the construction committee. He has played an important and a very significant role as far as the construction is concerned. We know this fact that almost 2,000 places, 2,000 spiritual and religious places of our country, the land, or you can say the mitti, the pious or the sacred matti has been brought from 2,000 places from India and from outside the country as well. And of course, on the other side, 100 water from 100 rivers has also been brought to this place. So this in itself gives a strong message of unity. This in itself gives a message of unity, and of course, and unity, and that's the strength, and that's Ram actually symbolizes. Ram was an ideal son, Ram was an ideal brother, and that's what it also signifies over here, that people of Ayodhya are now all decked up to celebrate this momentous occasion of 5th of August when Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be participating in this grand and mega event, whereby Doordarshan will also be bringing you this mega coverage and will be giving you all the detailed view as far as detailed coverage as far as this day is concerned of 5th of August. Ramesh?
All right, on that note, Arun, thank you so much for bringing our viewers up to speed with all the latest from Ayodhya ahead of the 5th August groundbreaking ceremony of the Ram Temple there. Appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Right, so viewers, stay tuned to Doordarshan, DD India and DD News for the comprehensive coverage of the events between now and 5th August. All right, time for a short break here on News Night. When we come back, we'll have our guests over for a discussion in our In Focus segment. Keep watching News Night. Don't go anywhere.
कांग्रेस नेतृत्व कभी भी समस्या का समाधान नहीं चाहता था। 492 वर्ष के बाद एक लंबे संघर्ष, लंबे जन आंदोलन के बाद इस प्रकार का एक अवसर आया है। किसी कार्य पर प्रश्न खड़ा करना सेकुलरिज्म नहीं, बल्कि सेकुलरिज्म के नाम पर समाज को विभाजन करने की कुत्सित मंशा से की जाने वाली वे कृत्य हैं जो सदैव समाज को कभी जाति के नाम पर, कभी क्षेत्र के नाम पर, कभी भाषा के नाम पर, कभी मत और मजहब के नाम पर विभाजित करते रहे हैं।
Welcome back. You're watching News Night on DD India and DD News. Time now for our In Focus segment, in which we're discussing about Ayodhya decked up for Bhoomi Pujan ceremony of Ram Temple. All right, joining me is Prafulla Ketkar, the editor of Organizer Weekly. Also joining me is senior journalist Sanjay Singh. Gentlemen, welcome to News Night. If I can start with you, Prafulla Ketkar, as my colleague in Ayodhya was pointing out, this is not just about one temple. It is a question of emotions of a number of people who have been associated with this campaign for decades on end. I'll take the question to Sanjay Singh, I'm told, who is online. Sanjay Singh, this question is to you. As my colleague said, this is not just about one temple, but an emotion of an entire nation. Your thoughts just days ahead of the much anticipated event of 5th August in Ayodhya?
The movement for construction of Ram Temple was going on for 5 centuries. Since 1985, the case was pending in various courts of law.
Right.
And that was the first time in 1985 when somebody had approached the court. And since 1949, Ram Lalla appeared there and so on, things went there thereafter. That part is known. Fact remains that this is a question of faith of crores of Indians, not just in India, and people who have faith in Hinduism, and also people who believe in Hinduism spread across the world. They want to see Ram Temple a reality. And therefore, 5th August is going to be a well and truly a very, very historic day in country's history. The fact remains that Prime Minister Modi is going there. And the state government has also been very active. If you go to Ayodhya, Ram Ki Peri, Saryu is actually a very, very beautiful place. It lifts your mood and gives a spiritual kind of ambience is there. Whether in the morning or at the night, Ram Janam Bhoomi is slightly away from Saryu River. And so far, for anyone who had visited that place earlier, would return with a sorry feeling in his heart and mind, because you had to go through several barricades, several rounds of checking, and you could not even carry a medicine tablet inside. And while going past those barricades, you often tend to actually realize as to where Ram Lalla was placed. Now that Grand Temple is being constructed there, 2-3 things are very important here. This was, BJP used to say this was an article of faith. And people used to, BJP's critique would say that Ram Lalla hum aayenge, lekin date nahi bataye. Now that date is there, thanks to Supreme Court's intervention and final verdict on the case. And that date is 5th of August. I also take this thing in a slightly different way, because Ram Temple and abrogation of Article 370 formed also bifurcation of that state into 2 UTs. There are 2 very important issues in BJP's manifesto or vision document.
Right.
So far, people used to take vision document of any political party with a degree of cynicism. Those were papers which people thought promises were made during elections and forgotten later. By doing so, Prime Minister Modi and the BJP, by abrogation of Article 370 and going with construction of Ram Temple and with several other deliveries, whatever was promised there, has changed that long-held perception about political parties and their manifestos. These things are there for implementation. And the 5th of August, I am sure more than half of the nation is going to be glued to the television. And people abroad, Indian diaspora,
absolutely,
and also people who believe in Hinduism. I see various videos and capsules and pictures where people of foreign origin are also inclined or adopted to Hinduism. They are all going to be glued to the television sets to see this momentous and historic occasion.
Absolutely. Momentous and historic, says Sanjay Singh. Praful Keth, coming to you now. Looking back at the evolution of the decades-old campaign, some say centuries-old campaign, if you look at a couple of landmarks, last year we saw the Supreme Court verdict in 2019. Then the next earliest date comes to mind is 1984, when the mass campaign started. Some others would go further back in history, almost 500 years ago, to the rule of the Mughal Emperor Babur. Looking back at all these developments and coming back to the contemporary time, Praful Keth, could you think this will bring finally some closure to a much debated issue in Indian politics?
Absolutely. See, there are three broad dimensions. One is, of course, the historical dimension to it,
right,
and the sort of settlement to our larger civilizational question of unity and integrity. But besides that, there was a legal question and there was a political question.
Right.
And I'm glad that somehow actually it started converging in 2010 itself, when Allahabad High Court gave
That's
that
right.
verdict. But because the verdict on the one hand accepted what Supreme Court later ratified, but in terms of actual operationalization, the verdict was split. So in that sense, Supreme Court verdict, the unanimous verdict and a clear verdict, definitely put a closure to a very long debated and contested topic of contemporary Indian politics. But for me, this is not just a legal or a political question. If you see our debates even during our independence movement, whether Lokmanya Tilak's Swaraj or Gandhiji's Ramraj, and immediately after post-independence, if we see the way Sardar Patel and K. Munshi took initiative to reconstruct the temple of Somnath, that clearly shows that there was a dominant school of thought which believed that whatever may be these symbols of external aggression on India, irrespective of the religion or the place of invaders, they should be somewhere addressed and rectified. So that thought was always there even during the independence movement. So when we always talked about Swaraj, in that Swa, that self, this the national education in Indian languages, so Swa Bhasha, Swa Dharma, and Tilak himself used these words about Swadeshi. So all these four elements related to Swa constituted the entire independence movement. So Swaraj, Swadeshi, Swabhasha, and Swabhasha in the sense national education, and Swadeshi. So all these comprise of the idea of Swaraj, and then Gandhi later built it on Ramraj. I think we should look at this not just as a victory or defeat of somebody, but this is our civilizational symbol. Prabhu Ram, as envisaged, as we are seeing what is happening in Tamil Nadu, what is the way people are celebrating in Kerala, what is happening, right from north to south, east to west, that clearly shows that. And the movement also, actually, the Ram Janmabhoomi liberation movement also showed the same signs that all the barriers were broken in the name of Ram. So that spirit, I think, should be carried forward, and that individual and collective righteousness that Sri Ram symbolizes, I think this temple should become a kind of epitome of that, our civilizational identity.
Absolutely. Sanjay Singh, Prafullo Ketkar seems to say that this is an emotive issue. This goes way beyond politics. And as you mentioned just a short while ago, this indicates the fulfillment of the political manifesto of the BJP in terms of abrogating Article 370 and now constructing the Ram Temple at Ayodhya. So in that context, politics will never cease to remain an issue in the sense that how will it play out in the long term going forward, given the fact that 2 of the 3 issues which have been in the BJP manifesto have been fulfilled. Will now the focus shift to the Uniform Civil Code?
That would come later. But fact remains that these 2 issues, BJP used to call their article of faith.
Right.
A uniform civil code would come subsequently, but that's a separate bracket for discussion. And if you, since the BJP had adopted Palampur resolution, and where they had for the first time talked about Ram Janam Bhoomi and launching a movement in that regard. Prior to that, BJP used to believe that this was a task which was to be carried out by the VHP, an organ of the RSS, and they would not relate with that. But then Rajiv Gandhi got into this thing and tried to post Shabano's verdict, kind of changing, reversing Shabano verdict, and then BJP got into it. And Ram Janam Bhoomi movement was launched from Ayodhya, Somnath to Ayodhya, and then whatever happened, that part is over now. The fact that Modi government has been able to do it speaks volume about political will and grit of the current government. See, 2 things are very important. This has also happened because BJP has a government out there in UP, that is Yogi Sarkar. The Saryu that I was mentioning, if you go there and talk to anyone, banks of Saryu have been laid out beautifully. But by whom? They would talk about contribution of Kalyan Singh, and he was chief minister, and now about Yogi Adityanath. That area has been beautified.
Right.
Prior to that, and in the intervening period between Kalyan Singh and to Yogi Adityanath, that part was neglected. Ayodhya today stands as a municipal corporation, as a district. That, I think, that change, that process of change, if you have courage and conviction, if you are not strictly aligned to a particular kind of politics, say appeasing somebody or pleasing somebody, then you can proceed with that if you have that kind of verdict from people. Also, when this thing happens, this is also about Indian culture, Indian tradition, and Indian civilizational kind of project that India is there. Ram, in fact, represents Indian civilization, Indian cultural traditions. That is irrespective of the religion one belongs or does not belong, though primarily he is a Hindu god. When Prime Minister Modi goes there, of course, there are cynics and there are permanent kind of critics who see it differently. But fact remains that this temple is being constructed by a trust which was mandated by the Supreme Court. The government is not making any expenses on that count. That expenses would come from people. Yes, the state is supporting. That is because the 2 things, people who are criticizing, actually for the first time, a political party and a government is there which is fulfilling the promises it made in its manifesto, and thereby Modi government should be praised for coming true on what they said in the run-up to elections, in their manifesto, in their vision document, and making that transformational change. On August 5th, last year it was abrogation of Article 370. This year it is foundation stone on Ram Janam Bhoomi Temple at Ayodhya.
Indeed. And I'm running out of time, so very quickly, Prafulla Khedkar, your thoughts on the point raised by Sanjay Singh, that this indicates the presence of political will on the part of the government to 1, abrogate Article 370, and 2, pave the way for the construction of the Ram Temple at Ayodhya, fulfilling 2 important points mentioned in the BJP manifesto as well.
Why just these 2? In fact, I would add the, as per the Supreme Court verdict, the way government stood firm on the issue of abrogating triple talaq also.
Right.
The instant talaq, and I consider it as a step forward even in the uniform civil code, because our civil laws are actually uniform.
Right.
What are the things that are missing? The marriage, the divorce, and the succession. Now, one issue is at least, and the other issues are already under consideration in the court.
Right.
So, the point is all these these three issues have brought the larger debate, to the forefront about one, our identity as a nation,
Right.
two, the constitutionality of and the discrimination that penetrated through the provisions like Article 370, and three, in the name of secularism, the kind of politics that was played in independent India since 1950. So all these three critical issues were brought forward by these issues. So these issues in the political sense themselves are not only important, but the debates that they brought intellectually, constitutionally and politically, and even for that matter socio-cultural level, they are equally important for me.
Absolutely. On that point, Prafullo Ketkar and Sanjay Singh, thank you so much for joining us on Newsnight. Appreciate it. Thank you once again for your time. Right, moving on to more news from India now. Prime Minister Modi speaks to Afghan President Dr. Ashraf Ghani. Now, in their conversation, they exchanged greetings on the joyous festival of Eid. President Ghani thanked the Prime Minister for the timely supply of food and medicines. The Prime Minister reiterated India's commitment to the people of Afghanistan in their quest for a peaceful, prosperous and inclusive Afghanistan. The two leaders also exchanged views on the evolving security situation in the region and other areas of mutual interest. Now, India has given a nod to the Pune-based Serum Institute of India for conducting further trials of a COVID-19 vaccine candidate called Covishield. The vaccine has been co-developed by the University of Oxford and a UK-based company called AstraZeneca. In other developments, the Union Health and Family Welfare Ministry has issued guidelines on preventive measures to contain the spread of COVID-19 pandemic in yoga institutes and gymnasia as well.
India is leaving no stone unturned in its battle with COVID-19. The Drugs Controller General of India, DCGI, has given the nod to the Serum Institute of India for conducting Phase 2 and 3 human clinical trials of the Oxford University's COVID-19 vaccine candidate in the country. DCGI Dr. V.G. Somani granted the approval late Sunday night after a thorough evaluation based on the recommendations of the Subject Expert Committee on COVID-19. The firm has to submit safety data evaluated by the Data Safety Monitoring Board to the CDSCO before proceeding to Phase 3 clinical trials. As per the study design, each subject will be administered 2 doses 4 weeks apart, the first dose on day 1 and the second dose on day 29, following which the safety and immunogenicity will be assessed at pre-defined intervals. The DCGI has given approval to SII, Pune, to conduct Phase 2 and 3 clinical trials of Oxford University's AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine Covishield in India, and this will hasten the development of the COVID-19 vaccine, according to the Health Ministry statement. The Union Health and Family Welfare Ministry has issued guidelines on preventive measures to contain the spread of COVID-19 pandemic in yoga institutes and gymnasiums. The generic preventive measures include simple public health measures that are to be followed to reduce the risk of COVID-19. These measures need to be observed by all members, visitors and staff in these places at all times. These include individuals must maintain a minimum distance of 6 feet as far as feasible. Use of face covers, masks is mandatory at all times within the premises. However, during yoga exercise or exercising in gymnasiums, as far as possible, only a visor may be used. Practice frequent hand washing with soap for at least 40 to 60 seconds, even when hands are not visibly dirty. Use of alcohol-based hand sanitizers for at least 20 seconds can be practiced whenever feasible. Respiratory etiquette to be strictly followed. This involves strict practice of covering one's mouth and nose while coughing and sneezing. Self-monitoring of health by all and reporting any illness at the earliest to the state and district helpline. Spitting should be strictly prohibited. Installation and use of Arogya Setu app shall be advised to all. Recovery rate from COVID-19 in India is continuously improving. In the last 24 hours, 40,574 patients have recovered. The total recovered cases has risen to 11,86,203, and the recovery rate now stands at 65.77% amongst COVID-19 patients. It has crossed a milestone once again and has conducted over 2 crore COVID tests. The tests per million increased to 14,640. With 3,81,027 samples tested in the last 24 hours, the number of tests per million has increased to 14,640. while the country's TPM has demonstrated a steady upward trend indicating the growing testing network. 24 states and union territories have reported higher testing per million than the national average. As of now, the total number of active COVID-19 cases in India is more than 5.79 lakh. Fatality rate has declined to 2.11%. COVID-19 has so far claimed 38,135 lives. With inputs from Nitendra Singh, Newsnight Desk, DD India.
Right, moving on, the flood situation in Bihar remains critical. More than 54 lakh people in 1,000-odd panchayats in 14 districts of the state are affected. About 4 lakh people have been evacuated so far. 31 disaster relief teams have been pressed into service. Nearly 27,000 people are staying in relief centers, while over 9.5 lakh people are being given cooked food through community kitchens. According to the latest data received from the Central Water Commission, the Gandak River was flowing above the danger mark at Dumaria Ghat in Gopalganj. The Buri Gandak River was also flowing above the red mark at Lal Begya Ghat in West Champaran, Ahirwalia and Sikandarpur in Muzaffarpur and Samastipur as well. The water level of the Bagmati River was also above the danger mark at Deng Bridge at a few places. A red alert was issued in 24 panchayats in view of the heavy water pressure on the embankments of Kare and Bagmati rivers passing through Shivaji Nagar and Singya block areas of Samastipur district. The Meteorology Department has forecast light rain in the catchment areas of all the rivers of Bihar over the next 24 hours. Meanwhile, flood situation in Assam is improving. Only 17 of 33 districts are affected. With one more death reported from Bongaigaon district, the death toll due to the floods has risen to 110. The population affected by the flood waters has come down to about 3.89 lakh. Golpara remains the worst hit district. The number of villages affected also has reduced to less than 500. More than 7,000 people had taken shelter in 38 relief camps. Almost half of the Kaziranga National Park is still submerged. The President, Vice President and Prime Minister have greeted people on the occasion of the festival of Raksha Bandhan. Social distancing marked the festivities, but it did not dampen the spirit. Take a look at our report.
Raksha Bandhan is a festival that celebrates the eternal bond between brothers and sisters. Celebrated on the full moon of Shravan, this festival is dedicated to the unbreakable brother-sister bond. The sister ties Rakhi to her brother and in return he promises to protect her forever. The sister also prays for the long life of her brother. This year, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, a large gathering was not witnessed. But this did not dampen the spirit of the festival. People across the country celebrated the festivals with religious fervor and enthusiasm. Some followed all COVID safety protocols and tied Rakhi, and some did a virtual celebration, which is a new normal. People across the country celebrated the festival in different ways. It was after so long, people went to the bazaars and shopped Rakhi's sweets. At many places, there was some relaxation in lockdown rules. Shops all over the markets were adorned with Rakhi's sweets, dry fruits, gifts. The Uttar Pradesh government provided free transportation for women on this occasion. The President, Vice President, Prime Minister all extended their greetings to the nation. President Ram Kovind in a tweet said, "Greetings on Raksha Bandhan. Rakhi is the sacred thread of love and trust that connects sisters with brothers in a special bond. On this day, let us reiterate our commitment to secure the honor and dignity of women." President Ram Kovind celebrated the auspicious occasion at the Rashtrapati Bhavan with the nurses of the Trained Nurses Association of India, Military Nursing Service and President's Estate Clinic. The President appreciated the role of nurses as saviors in the fight against COVID-19 and said that in the time of this pandemic, the sisters are protecting their brothers. During the celebrations, it was ensured that all COVID-19 security protocols were being followed.
भाई बहन के एक प्यार का प्रतीक है और उसके पीछे भाव ये होता है कि यदि बहन कभी मुश्किल में आती है तो भाई उसकी रक्षा करेगा, एक उसके पीछे भाव ये है। लेकिन आज के जो कोरोना का माहौल चल रहा है और उसमें आप लोगों जैसे जो कोरोना वॉरियर्स हैं, फ्रंट रनर्स हैं, उनको मैं देखता हूँ आज आपकी भूमिका बढ़ गई है। आज तो वो स्थिति हो गई है कि आप जैसी बहनें भाइयों से रक्षा नहीं मांग रही हैं, बल्कि भाई जो हैं आप सब लोगों से रक्षा के लिए हाथ बढ़ा रहे हैं। और इसलिए आपको बहुत बहुत मैं मुबारकबाद और बधाई देता हूँ इस जो आपकी भूमिका चेंज हुई है और उसको आप लोग बखूबी से निभा रहे हैं, ये सबसे बड़ी।
Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu also extended his greetings. He in a tweet said, "On this auspicious occasion, let us also resolve to uphold the dignity and respect traditionally accorded to women in our society and empower women to reach their true potential. May this festival usher in greater peace, harmony and prosperity in the country." Raksha Bandhan. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also wished the nation on the auspicious occasion. In his tweet message, he said, "Many wishes to all the countrymen on the holy festival of Raksha Bandhan." Legendary singer Lata Mangeshkar wished PM Modi on the special occasion and also shared a video on Twitter. Replying to her tweet, PM Modi wrote, "Dear Lata Didi, on this auspicious occasion of Raksha Bandhan, this soulful message of yours will be a source of inspiration and energy. With the blessings of crores of mothers and sisters, our country will definitely touch new heights and achieve new successes. May you be healthy and live long. This is my prayer to God." Home Minister Amit Shah also extended his wishes to the people. In Odisha, sand artist Sudarshan Patnaik made a beautiful artwork dedicated to COVID warriors on the seashore. With all COVID protocols in place, people celebrated Raksha Bandhan and made sure that the pandemic does not dampen the spirit. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
Now, 3rd August is celebrated as Sanskrit Day. Sanskrit is the mother of all Indian languages. This year, the day is even more special as Sanskrit was given priority in the recently announced National Education Policy. More in the next report.
Sanskrit is one of the most precious gifts given by India to the world. In its name itself, there is culture, sophistication and purity. 1500 BC, when the world was living in a barbaric era, we had touched the highest peak of knowledge in the form of Vedas. India had envisaged happiness and well-being of all and gave the universal philosophy of Vasudeva Kutumbakam. The grammar of Sanskrit was composed 1,000 years ago before the Christ, while English grammar started taking its initial form in 1600 AD, about 2,000 years after the Sanskrit grammar. Numerous historic mysteries such as zero, decimal, algebra, position of the constellations, the distance of the sun from earth were revealed by the Indian astrophysicists such as Varamihira, Aryabhat, Shripadi, Lal, Brahmagupta and Bhaskaracharya by the 10th century. It is still a great surprise for Western astronomers. In his first term in 2014, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had made his commitment clear to Sanskrit and the culture by pronouncing Vedic sentences.
भारत का मतलब वसुधैव कुटुम्बकम। भारत का मतलब सर्वपंथ संभाव। भारत का मतलब सत्यमेव जयते।
In the last 6 years, the government has taken several decisions which instilled a new enthusiasm in the world of Sanskrit. Giving priority to Sanskrit and English languages in the recently announced new education policy is another such step taken by the government. Prime Minister has also clearly outlined this in his tweet. Education Minister Dr. Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank has also said that Sanskrit will play an important role in the new national education policy. The steps taken to promote Sanskrit are historical. No doubt, the aura of Sanskrit will shine even more brilliantly in the days to come. Bureau Report, DD News.
The Enforcement Directorate has questioned the chartered accountant of the late actor Sushant Singh Rajput in connection with a money laundering probe that stemmed from a complaint lodged by Rajput's father with the Bihar police. Sandeep Sridhar has been questioned in Mumbai by the Central Probe Agency and his statement recorded under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. The CA is understood to be handling the actor's finances for about a year, and the ED wants to understand his financial dealings in order to take the probe forward. Meanwhile, the reverberations of this case echoed in the Bihar Assembly as well, with leaders of all parties demanded CBI probe into the actor's death. An IPS officer from Bihar who had landed in Mumbai on Sunday for leading the SIT investigating in the case was meanwhile quarantined under the COVID-19 regulations in force in the city. Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar called this inappropriate and forcible. Now to take a look at all the global news in our World Wrap segment. Now, the chief of the WHO has warned that despite strong hopes for a vaccine, there might never be a silver bullet for COVID-19. The WHO chief exhorted all nations to enforce health measures such as wearing of a mask, social distancing, hand washing and testing. WHO officials said an advanced investigation team was not yet back from China, where the virus originated. The British Health Minister has said millions of COVID-19 tests that will detect the coronavirus within 90 minutes will be rolled out in the United Kingdom. This as the country prepares to face the pandemic in winter. The British government said capacity will be boosted at hospitals, care homes and laboratories starting from next week, comprising 5.8 million tests. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison said the country will introduce a pandemic leave payment for workers who have run out of sick leave but need to be quarantined because they have been directed to stay at home due to the coronavirus. The announcement comes as the country deals with a second wave of infections. Its second most populous state of Victoria has closed retail shops and curtailed manufacturing activity in order to slow the spread of COVID-19. Manila residents on Monday said they feared stricter lockdown measures recently announced by the government as the coronavirus cases continue to spike across the Philippines. The President, Rodrigo Duterte, approved the modified enhanced community quarantine after local health worker advocacy groups called for stricter measures, saying that the country was losing the fight against the virus. The new measures will kick in from 4th August and last until 18th August. In Afghanistan, security forces laid siege to a prison seized by Islamic State fighters in the eastern city of Jalalabad on Monday, with at least 29 people killed and wounded after the militants' overnight assault led to a mass jailbreak. Officials said more than 300 prisoners were at large. Of the nearly 2,000 prisoners, more than 1,000 had tried to escape and been recaptured, and 430 had remained inside. Former Pope Benedict XVI, the first pontiff in 600 years to resign instead of ruling for life, is seriously ill, a German newspaper reported on Monday. The newspaper cited Benedict's biographer, German author Peter Seewald, who met the 93-year-old emeritus Pope at the Vatican on Sunday. Spanish firefighters and military emergency personnel battled amid blistering heat on Monday to control a wildfire in the Madrid region that had burned through the night and forced evacuation of several houses. Emergency services confirmed a handful of isolated houses had been evacuated as a precautionary measure, but no communities were at risk. John Hume, a Roman Catholic architect of Northern Ireland's Good Friday Peace Agreement, who won the Nobel Peace Prize for his role in ending 30 years of sectarian violence, died on Monday at the age of 83, his Social Democratic and Labour Party has said. As leader of the moderate SDLP, Hume helped start the peace process in the late 1980s by secretly meeting Gerry Adams, leader of the IRA's political ally Sinn Féin. That's a wrap on Newsnight, but news continues here on DD India and DD News. You can catch all the latest updates on our social media, mobile and digital platforms. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.